Way down deep in the middle of the Congo, a hippo took an apricot, a guava, and a mango. He stuck it with the others and he danced a ditty tango. The rhino said, I know, we'll call it Umbango. Umbango, the trick-a-ditty Congo. Python picked the passion through the mammal, said the mandarin. The parrot painted bandits got the hunk of voodoo land it is. So when it comes to sun and fun and goodness in the jungle, they all prefer the sunny, funny one they call Umbango.
Libby's Umbango. High juice drinks, free from artificial ingredients.
This is the Retro Inc. podcast, episode 64. Jeremy, hello there.
Hi there, how you doing?
Very well, thank you. No Andy this week, but just the two of us talking stuff. And this week's been very busy for you with a new job, so you've been a little bit short on time, I would imagine. But what have you been binging on, watching, catching up on before we get into all the rest of the stuff?
Well, I'd like to start a new job, so time has been an issue. I would happily spend an entire day binging movies, which I currently can't do, which is disappointing. But I have watched Halloween this week with my son Freddie, which he loved. He's pleased he finally watched a classic. We then, the next day, watched Us, which I really didn't fancy. I thought the trailer made it look a bit rubbish, but Freddie really wanted to watch it. And it's one of those movies I was really happily surprised. It was much better than I thought it would be. Really enjoyed it.
Very scary, jumpy for Freddie?
No.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I found it very compelling, gripping, and very interesting. Loved the actors in it too. I think the cast was sublime.
Yeah, a bit of a twist at the end as well, which I enjoyed.
Good twist. Highly recommended, I would say. I'd definitely give that a good 4.5 out of 5, I would say.
Yeah, I would 4.
Yeah.
4 out of 5.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty damn good. So, yeah. And what else have you been checking out?
I've still been catching up on Happy on Netflix, hoping to watch the second season soon. But it's just been finding the time. I watched the next episode of Swamp Thing. And I can't believe they've cancelled it. It's so good. Really enjoyable. Hopefully Netflix will pick it up or someone will. But, I'd very disappointed they've cancelled that already because it's worth a watch if you can watch it. And I also watched Good Omens.
Which is a superb show. Totally superb show.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. Have you finished that series?
Big fan. I've finished it now. I'm a big fan of the book. I'm a massive Terry Pratchett fan. Neil Gaiman, some really good stuff. And if you enjoy the series, check out the book because it's better.
The book. So there is a book, or is there many books? Do you know?
No, it's just the one book. Yeah, it's a collaboration with Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, but it's really good.
Yeah, wonderful Neil Gaiman stuff. Always a joy to read his work. His graphic novels are superb. And, of course, he helped write and did write Lucifer. So, all good there. I think there's a possibility that Netflix might pick up Swamp Thing, as obviously they're losing the Marvel deal and it's all going to the streaming service over at Disney Plus. So it's a great possibility that it might pick up a lot more of the DC stuff.
It's very dark.
It's a possibility. I personally,
it's very, very dark, but very, very good.
Well, I think we've seen a lot of dark stuff on Netflix, so it wouldn't be a surprise if they do pop it on there. Yeah, great stuff. Good Omens, really good. David Tennant and Michael Sheen, two brilliant actors. And sublime, I think, direction, great cast, wicked soundtrack, really good soundtrack. And I love the narration that runs over the top. Really love that. I've did that to my son, actually, because I thought he might enjoy that, because it's got some very dry humour in it. Let's talk on Netflix. For the next week or so, Netflix has got some cracking stuff. So if you've got Netflix, and I'm sure our listeners have, and you're in for a real treat this week, because let me tell you, the holy grail of anime, Neon Genesis Evangelion, is available in full alongside its recap movie Death and Rebirth, as well as End of Evangelion. For those that aren't in the know, Neon Genesis is widely regarded as one of the best TV shows ever made. And to say anything more would just sort of kind of ruin it, really. Even better, the show has been out of print for some time, and if you've tried finding it online, it's very fine. So that's pretty awesome. What else we got? We've got Bolivar, Dark Season 2. I don't know if you've seen Dark. It's very good. And then obviously got Evangelion, Death and Rebirth, and we've also got Neon Genesis Evangelion. But movie-wise, The Terminator is back on Netflix.
Oh, that come on Netflix?
On June 18th, yeah. Beats is on June 19th, The Big Wheel is on June 20th, and End of Evangelion is on June 21st. So some great stuff appearing on Netflix. This being episode 64... I thought we'd just run through some of the great films of 1964. Some of these you've heard of, some of them I might have not heard of, some of them I think we've seen. So let's go through some. Goldfinger. Now, Goldfinger, that was the second Bond film. Yeah. Come, Mr. Bond. Lovely film. Alfred Hitchcock's Suspenseful Sex Mystery, Marnie. Ever seen that?
I believe I have, yes.
What else we got? We got Zulu.
I've never seen that.
Michael Caine. No, I've never seen it, funny enough. It's one of those films, isn't it, that is highly regarded, and yet very few people have seen it. The wonderful A Shot in the Dark. The Pink Panther. I remember seeing that at school. We used to have that in a school assembly. They'd give us a treat and watch a Pink Panther film. Dr. Strangelove. Ever seen that? It's an amazing film.
I tried. I didn't like it.
It's a bit long-winded, and if you're not kind of keen on that kind of stuff, not for you. But Mary Poppins was released in 1964. You must have seen Mary Poppins.
I've never seen Mary Poppins.
Oh, it's perfectly perfect in every way. You have to see it. My Fair Lady.
I love My Fair Lady.
Isn't it wonderful?
I watched that on loop as a child, and I know it verbatim.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Day's Night, the Beatles film. Ever seen that?
I've never watched that. No, I don't like the Beatles. They're massively overrated, and I don't like them. Sorry to all the listeners who just turned off.
A Fistful of Dollars. Now, I watched... I watched... Is a trilogy?
Fistful of Dollars, a few dollars more, and there's another one, I'm sure.
Two, is it? Is it two of them? A few dollars. Yeah, I find them difficult to watch. I've seen them all. I watch them all here, and I think it's just the editing. I get a lot of sort of close-ups of faces and stuff. I thought was a bit in your face, a bit much, but they're classics.
I like a spaghetti western. So
yeah. First Men in the Moon.
Oh, as it happens, I'm listening to the audiobook of that at the moment. I loved First Men in the Moon. It's a stop-motion classic. I love stop-motion movies. They are among my favourite type, and it's just an amazing book. And the book is nothing like the movie. Just pointing that out. It's one of the ones that's totally different. In fact, I think I prefer the movie. to the book.
Sorry to our listeners there, we did lose Jeremy slightly on the call. The Killers. Have you seen The Killers?
No.
633 Squadron.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
The Carpetbaggers. That's a great film.
I haven't seen that.
What else we got here? We got Viva Las Vegas, a Presley movie.
I will have seen that, yes. I don't remember it, but I know I've seen it.
The Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Who?
I know. Mothra versus Godzilla.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
That's great, isn't it?
I'm a big Godzilla fan as well.
That's a great film. What else we got? We've got a couple of others, but nothing really worth mentioning. So, 1964, there were some cracking films. One film that you have never seen, and it does surprise me, being a horror fan, is The Shining. Now,
Never seen it.
The trailer dropped for Doctor Sleep, and I believe you did watch the trailer. Now,
I have watched the trailer.
Now, how did it look to you, not seeing The Shining? Did it look compelling?
Well, it just made no sense to me at all, obviously, because I'm watching it and right, I have no idea who he is, what magic he's talking about, and The Shining, or just that made no sense. But like you said, it might be an idea to watch that and then watch The Shining afterwards.
What do you think that? I don't know. See, it's until I've seen this, or anyone has seen this, then perhaps we could say you could watch that and then watch The Shining. A bit like watching the prequels before A New Hope. Who knows? It might work.
I think that if a sequel has an over-reliance on watching the original, and the original is a film that's 30-odd years old, I think you alienate an audience there.
Yes, but it is like that. It's a bit like saying, oh, let's go and see Blade Runner 2049, and you haven't seen Blade Runner. It would be a little bit like that, I suppose. But
well, I was just trying to get watching it anyway. So.
Did you like the way it looked?
It looked fine. It's always good to see Obi-Wan again on the screen. But yeah, it looked fine, but it doesn't really make any sense to me at all. So,
well, one thing that didn't make a lot of sense was something else that dropped this week.
Going to the Banana Splits.
Sometimes at night, I see the Splits riding around in their little cars, laughing and singing.
Who's excited to see the Banana Splits? Yeah!
Rebecca, I'm canceling the show.
What?
Hey, kids, put on your happiest faces, because the Banana Split Show is about to begin.
Where are the children?
Mom, get out of here. Time's almost up. Why are you doing this to me?
Dad, please!
Let me out! Now the show can go on forever and ever and ever.
Come on, you fussy son of a... I just really want your brother's birthday to be perfect.
We're gonna have so much fun.
So before hitting the big time with H.R. Puff and Snuff, puppeteers Sid and Marty Croft lent their psychedelic touch to the costume design and sets of this late 1960s Hanna-Barbera children's series. A laugh track-laden collection of live-action buffoonery and animated segments for the undiscerning young minds. And I'm sure both of us watched it in the early 70s. Whether it's crazy clubhouse or it's cavorting among the public, costumed animal hosts, Fleagle, Bingo, Drooper and Snorky. They would engage in all manner of harmless nonsense and even strap on musical instruments to perform hippy-tippy rock numbers. And the show remains firmly logged in the memories of baby boomers as well as old shaved-headed men like ourselves. The theme tune is well loved, the Tra-La-La song, One Banana, Two Banana, and of course I'm talking about the Banana Splits Adventure show, which was an hour-long American show, packaged variety program featuring the Banana Splits, of course, themselves, and they were a fictional rock band, and it ran for 31 episodes on NBC on Saturday mornings from September the 7th, 1968. It finished in 1970, I believe, and then it did reruns from like 71 to 82. The costumes and sets, as I say, were designed by Sid and Marty Krofft, and they must have been off their head when they created the show. The show, I don't know if you remember, was sponsored by Kellogg's. I don't know if you
just remember thinking it was the
because it was
weirdest, freakiest thing I'd ever seen.
Well, you know, it featured both live action and animated segments, and it was very bizarre. There was always this little girl that used to pop up and tra-la-la boom die, sing that song, and then they'd shut the door on it. It was just really, really freaky. Anyway, after its long and last episode in 1970 and after the reruns on TV came a trailer from out of nowhere. So now in 2019, the R-rated horror adaptation has been announced, trailers dropped, and it's going to be released on DVD and digital in the summer of this year, 2019, with an airing on the Sci-Fi Channel coming later in the year. Now, Jeremy, what the bloody hell did you make of this trailer?
I thought it looked brilliant.
It was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Basically, it's the Five Nights at Freddy movie without costing as much as Five Nights at Freddy's because they haven't got to pay for the license. But yeah, I thought that the Banana Splits were pretty sinister anyway. So if it turns out they were murderous animatronic robots, I wouldn't be remotely surprised.
Well. Yeah.
It's kind of got a Killer Clown from Outer Space vibe to it. I think it looks a bit of fun. I think it just looks silly fun.
I just hope it doesn't flop like that lovely murder Muppet film that was out last year, which was awful.
I loved it. Happy Time Murder. It was great fun. Really good fun.
Well, I watched it. I thought it was awful. I struggled. I did struggle.
Again, it's about murderous puppets that have sex and take drugs.
How do you think? Yeah, how do you think this came about? Do you think it was just Did you think it was just some guys going, "Look, we got some money here. What should we do with it?" Do you remember that show in the 70s, the Banana? Let's turn them into murderous animated life-size puppets.
I genuinely think
kill kids.
They tried to get the FNAF right. Five Nights at Freddy's, couldn't do it, and then just sold them to the lowest bidder. They looked at all the old TV shows, went to the Banana Splits guys who are probably still recovering from whatever they took in the 60s, and said, look, you can probably buy a load more stuff if you sell us the rights for like a packet of biscuits, because that's probably what it cost to make. And I think that's all it is, and it's going to take the wind out of the sails of any FNAF movie that's going to come along afterwards.
That's for sure.
It just looks like a bit silly fun. I think that the people who aren't familiar with Five Nights at Freddy's, when the Five Nights at Freddy's inevitable movie comes out, people are just going to go, that's a Banana Split rip-off, and they're not going to get it.
It's very true. Yeah.
I think it's clever marketing, and I don't care. I think it looks a bit of fun. Like I said, they're always sinister to me anyway, and freak me out a little bit. So they're not the worst presenters of TV shows from the 70s anyway. So
indeed. I think it will be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing it on Sci-Fi. And would I buy that on DVD or Blu-ray? I don't think I would, but I'd certainly watch it.
Oh, I probably would.
Would you have that?
Yeah. Put on next to like Ghoulies and Killer Clowns and Chud and all those kind of rubbishy 80s movies and 90s. They're great fun. Just a bit silly fun. Just take it for what it is.
I think it's going to be, well, I mean, before the trailer started, it says contains a lot of scenes of gore. So if it's got a lot of gore in it, it's going to be, a real bloody mess, isn't it? It's going to be fantastic.
But again, I think it's going to be silly over the top gore anyway. So.
Yeah. I was all for it. I was watching it through and I thought, this is great. And then when I saw the eyes go like red, and I was like, oh god, looks very
Did you
creepy.
cry? Were you a bit scared?
Nah, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Well, you know, what a trailer. I didn't expect that to pop out of nowhere, did you?
No.
It was amazing. So this week, I've been banging on into Good Omens, and I went out shopping yesterday with my son and picked up a couple of Blu-rays. I picked up the Ultimate Edition of Predator on Blu-ray, and that was a bargain at £1.50. But the one film that I've been trying to find for a while on Blu-ray was the BFI edition, that's the British Film Institute, of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. You must have seen that.
I have. I've seen every adaptation there on in as well.
Yeah. Do you think?
Which that'll be on the stars is my favourite.
I suppose it would be. So yeah, what did you? I mean, I watched it yesterday, and it's a you know, it's not for everyone. It is a fantastic film. I mean, bear in mind how old it is. I mean, again, this is from 1954, I think.
Yeah, it's a 50s, isn't it?
Yeah, 1954. And I'm watching it on Blu-ray as well. You know, it keeps the grainy element of it really, really nicely. Because I don't like films that have been cleaned up too much. But on the whole, I think it's such a fantastic story. And of course, this was one of the movies that George Lucas based Star Wars upon to a degree, didn't he?
Speaking of which, there's a good time there. I started watching Star Wars on the original Star Wars on a streaming thing the other day, and it was so cleaned up. It wasn't very nice. It wasn't grainy enough, and it wasn't Star Warsy enough for me.
Okay. So, did you watch the theatrical cut?
Clearly, it wasn't a theatrical cut because there was crawling dewbacks in it and things like that, and I kind of thought I'd had enough by then.
Right. Okay. So you watched the special edition.
I watched Jordan this week. Yeah.
You watched the special edition. Yeah. Well, it is very clean. The great thing about the theatrical cuts is that they're Laserdisc transfers, so they've got an element of grainy fuzziness to them, which is why I like watching those myself. But I've got a Blu-ray edition of the Harmy versions, which are all cleaned up, and they are the theatrical cuts, and I love them to bits. I absolutely adore them, and I think the fact that they are nice and clean and sharp, it just makes it more of a joy to look at and watch, because you can see the detail in like Kenobi's heart. You can see the makeup really well. I just love it. And although I've got, you know, all the VHS editions above me, when you put them in the VHS, there is something wonderful about all the trailers before the film starts and what trailers are on there that they put on the VHS at the time. But yeah, you're right. I think, you know, those kind of films, they benefit from looking the way that they did when they came out, I think.
I remember something else I watched. It's come back to me. Stand By Me.
Right.
And that is one of those movies that you love it all the way through, and at the end, you kind of go, it's a little bit deflated because you're not 12 anymore. Mm-hmm. And you go, I've grown up and I've got to pay bills and go to work, and I can't just skive off and hunt for dead bodies. And it makes you miss your childhood in a wonderful way. It's a glorious movie. And
it's a glorious
in my top 5. Yeah. But I always feel a little bit sad when I finish watching. Not when I'm watching it, but afterwards. I spent about 5 minutes sitting there reflecting on my, you know, pre-teen years and how much fun they were.
Mate, I think it's one of those films, isn't it, that it just brings back memories of when we first watched it, but also just being a kid. There aren't many films that do that. I think The Goonies probably hit on it a little bit.
Yeah, maybe The Goonies, but, you know, The Goonies is so far-fetched.
The Railway Children?
Do you remember that time we found the pirate galleon? That was brilliant.
Yeah. The Railway Children does that for me with Jennifer Agatha. I think that does the same kind of thing. Yeah, it's a wonderful film. Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
Who else starred in that film? Just to remind the listener.
Oh yeah, Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell, Will Wheaton, and River Phoenix, and Richard Dreyfuss being the narrator.
I mean, that's a hell of a cast, isn't it?
Kiefer Sutherland.
Keith Sutherland, yeah.
Casey Siemaszko, Dick Dark, one of my favourite bad guys from Clint Eastwood movies, is in it. So there's loads of people in it. It's a great movie.
So, you've been driving around a lot in the car, and music in the car. What have you been playing? What was the last album you played from start to finish?
I don't play music in my car, not ever.
Oh.
I listen to books and podcasts is what I do. I don't ever get to listen to music. I've not listened to music for a very long time purely because my music is somewhat antisocial a lot of the time.
That's it. Right. So what kind of... let's go through your list of albums that you couldn't live without, and probably your favourite sort of 10, 12 albums that, are your favourite.
I don't know about you, but when I was doing this list, they just fell off the tongue straight away. So there's probably 50 that I could talk about, but I've gone to the ones that... The first ones that came to mind. First one was the Specials. The first album I ever owned. I'd like to sell Cool Enough to go and buy it, but I wasn't. I found it. Someone had chucked it over the back wall in my garden, and there was a snail on it. And I picked the snail off, played it, and I was addicted to ska and all that kind of stuff, and two-tone for a very long time. I loved it.
Same here.
And I can play the album time and time again, and it takes me back to the late 70s, early 80s, and all that kind of music. And
yeah,
I had Hair and all kinds of things. Hair and Friends.
Hair and Friends.
Strange.
Yeah. Those are the days.
And Teeth. Yeah. But yeah, the Specials was first album that I owned, and it really stuck with me to this day. It's just an amazing album. The next is The Innocents by Erasure.
Yeah.
That I remember. I mean, I loved it. I loved all Erasure in the 80s and early 90s because I was just a massive fan. But The Innocents I remember because my friend of mine, Simon, was studying in Cambridge University at the time, and I used to drive up and see him regularly, and I used to play The Innocents all the way up there and all the way back, and we'd talk about it while we were there, and we both were massive fans of it. So. And we were both really sad because of girls. So I think probably a lot of it at the time, we just talked about how sad we were about girls. Girls weren't mean when I was a teenager.
I think that album deserves a little respect, don't you think?
Oh, boom.
Yeah. It is a great album. Ship of Fools is on there, isn't it? Which is a beautiful song.
Yeah, that's an amazing 12-inch as well. Really good. The next one I have got is Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction.
Mm-hmm. Parts 1 and 2? Is it parts 1 and 2?
No, that was Use Your Illusion.
Ah, okay. Right.
Appetite for Destruction was the first one with Paradise City and Sweet Child of Mine and Night Train and things like that. I used to drive around. I used to have an old Vauxhall Cavalier. We'd drive around with the windows wound down, blaring out a bit of Guns N' Roses. I would play it when I used to go to the gym. And these days, I listen to Sweet Child of Mine, and I think it was written for me and my children. So there is that. Another one around the same time was Slippery When Wet, Bon Jovi. Mm-hmm. This was the album that kind of steered me away from R&B and soul and all that kind of stuff and towards heavy metal. It's kind of my gateway drug. I know it's poodle rock and it's not heavy metal at all, but it had guitars and drums and they had big hair and looked cool. And I played that constantly. I loved it.
That was a huge album.
It was really, really good. I mean, it wasn't their first album either, but it was a really good album.
That was Bon Jovi, wasn't it, the first one?
No, it was something rather Fahrenheit. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it was good. First album, good as well. I really enjoyed that. But I think their best album probably Slippery When Wet. I had the proper album, and I just have to turn it over and all. I had to record it to play it in the car because we had a tape deck. I had the best of Delamitri as well, which I love. I mean, Delamitri. Most people know like one or two songs.
Yeah.
But the entire album, the best of Delamitri, is superb.
Yeah, he was a great singer-songwriter from Scotland, and he had they had some really big hits, didn't they?
I don't think they had enough of the hits that people give them credit. The quality of their music is incredible, and I don't think that they were as big as they should have been. My next album was Counting Crows, August and Everything After, which is... do you know Counting Crows?
I do, yeah.
That's got the Rain King on it and Mr. Jones. They're the two famous ones of that.
They were the Rain King? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just really enjoyed that. That was... I had my first house when that came out. And I used to listen to that driving around in the car. Soul Asylum, Let Your Dim Light Shine, is another one. That's one of the ones where there's like only one filler track on the whole album. The whole album is superb. There's one Cage Rat I don't like that much, but that was not long after I stopped owning my first album. Actually, I got into that. It's a really good album. Although my favourite Soul Asylum track isn't on it, which is, that was, I think, Black Gold, the album that was from. I then written down Tori Amos and her album, Tori eponymous album. I like all of her stuff. I really enjoy Tori Amos.
Great vocalist, isn't she? Good singer. And
she's amazing. And
yeah, amazing live, really good. I mean, I think she got a lot of bad press when she came out as being a bit of a Kate Bush ripoff, but clearly I think she was an influence, but she's really made her own.
I think she's... lyrically, she's amazing. I mean, now, poetry with piano, what Tori Amos does. I love Tori Amos. And going from, a little singer-songwriter on a piano to Marilyn Manson. Hollywood in the Valley of the Shadow of God is an amazing album.
It's a great album, yeah.
Again, that was a gym album. I'd put that on and shut my eyes and go and train and block out the world and just train to that. Loved it. Slave to the Grind by Skid Row. That was kind of in the progression of music. That's the kind of bit between Bon Jovi and starting to get heavy metal, because there's some tracks on that are really heavy. But again, lyrically, it's really, really good. I like lyrically driven songs, so that was good. I'm not going to do two more, and then you can tell me about Prince. I've got Meteora by Linkin Park. Again, not the first album, but I loved Meteora. Superb. Again, it's gym stuff, and I used to play it all the time, driving around in the car. And my last one I'm going to go with is Jagged Little Pill, Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
Because that's superb.
Yeah, I don't think there's a bad track on that album, though, is there? It's just...
No.
I think most people, if they've got it to hand, could go through that album track by track and go, yeah, there's not a bad track on that album.
No.
It's brilliant. Good list, mate. Pretty varied to start with, and then it all went a bit rock, and then it eased off with a few female vocalists, which is nice. And then you got your Camp Erasure album in there, which is good. Joe, do you want to hear mine then? Now, mine is not mine's in no particular order whatsoever, but these are my sort of top albums of all time, and I'm going to start with the first album that I ever had, and it was the Star Wars soundtrack. The original black cover, gatefold with the poster. That was the first album I ever owned. That was 1977. I might have owned a Wombles album, but I don't want to mention that again. Adam the Ant's Ant music. He was pretty phenomenal. Obviously, I shared the name of his character because his real name wasn't Adam, neither was it Ant. And Depeche Mode's Violator, probably, I think, one of the greatest albums of all time that you've either never heard or you should have heard, and if you have heard it, would probably agree. Prince's Sign of the Times double album, there again, it's just an incredible album of tracks that cover every genre you can imagine. I mean, literally, you'd say, oh, has he got jazz on it? Yeah. Has he got funk on it? Yeah. Has he got soul on it? He's got house. Has he got melodic, beautiful piano-driven love songs? Yeah, it's got a lot on it. It's amazing. Radiohead's OK Computer is another one of those albums that if you have it, you love it. Kraftwerk's Computer World was another album that I loved as a kid and played that a lot on cassette. It was the first cassette I ever owned, was Kraftwerk's Computer World. Depeche Mode's Songs of Faith and Devotion came after Violator, and this album is heavy rock electronic, and this is the one that I would recommend to you, mate. It's probably at their peak, and after all the plinky plonky poppy just can't get enough stuff, Dave and Martin started to develop a few habits, and Violator was the start of it. By the time it got to Songs of Faith and Devotion, Dave Gahan was a full-on heroin addict, and Martin was drinking, and the other guys were suffering with their stuff. And this album has got Personal Jesus on it. It's just an awesome album, and I highly recommend it. The Prodigy's Fat of the Land and The Prodigy's Music for the Jilted Generation are two albums that you put them on and you crank it up loud. And we obviously lost Keith Flint, the frontman of the band, this year. Prince's Purple Rain and Prince's Parade. The film that Parade was linked to was called Under the Cherry Moon, and I wouldn't advise watching it personally. It's not good, but I love it. The Smiths' Queen is Dead, and Oasis is Definitely Maybe, probably the greatest debut album of all time. Oasis Definitely Maybe, mind-blowing album. Again, a bit like Alanis Morissette, you know, was that her first album, Jagged Little Pill? I mean, just mind-blowing. I mean, where'd you go from there when you have an album like that out?
Well, Alanis Morissette just went downhill. From that, I can tell you.
Well, probably Oasis did as well, because I don't think they ever kind of topped that, except the next album, which was pretty phenomenal. Anyway, back to the list. Iron Maiden's Live After Death is a fantastic live album with all their hits on, as well as Seventh Son of the Seventh Son by Iron Maiden. Now, a band from Liverpool area called Manson had a debut album called Attack of the Grey Lantern, it came from out of the blue. Their fans rushed out and bought it, went straight to number one. I remember seeing it in the rack and thinking, wow, who are these people? Never heard of them. And I just took a punt on it. Really liked it. But their next album, called Six, is incredible. And it stars on that album Tom Baker. He does a piece in this album, and it's just an incredible album. It's by the band Manson, and they got their name from Charles Manson, not Marilyn Manson.
Well, Marilyn Manson, but his name from Charles Manson.
That's right, yeah. Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back is angry and aggressive hip-hop, and it's fantastic. As well as in the hip-hop genre, Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style and De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising, is another album.
One of my least favourite albums ever.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd like that. Daft Punk's Discovery and Daft Punk's Random Access Memories, just superb stuff. But the last one on my list is Soul to Soul Classics Volume 1. Now,
that is actually my worst album ever.
I adore that album, and I remember going to a club in Brighton, and they literally played that album back to back in the club. Literally played the whole album, side A, side B, and then started on side A and finished off side B, and it was just an incredible evening. And it wasn't even a Soul to Soul night. It just was one of those albums that was just phenomenal, and you hated it. So there we go.
I've remembered two more that I've got to put on my list.
Oh, got him.
Mike Oldfield, Songs of Distant Earth.
Right. Okay.
That I listened to a lot when I was experimenting with
things,
mind-altering things.
So, Tubular Bells was his first one, wasn't it? And then did he do Moonlight Shadow or something? Was that the second album or third album? Where did this?
One of the albums. Oh, this one is mid-90s.
Right. Okay.
And it's got Whale Song, and it's almost like a concept album.
Right. Have you heard the KLF? KLF? Yeah, they did an album called Chill Out, which is like that. Got lots of kind of Wales bits going on in it.
This is really trippy and really weird, and it takes me back free to the times when I used to listen to it. And probably my most recent album that I've bought, other than, I think, The Best of Papa Roach, is first album by Passenger.
Oh, yeah.
Which is called Wicked Man's Rest.
Yes.
Which is superb. I love that album.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
He's a great artist.
Mm.
And he comes from Brighton, doesn't he? So
does indeed.
It's all good there. When did you last watch a Marvel film? And
I've watched them on a regular basis, if I'm honest. What's the last one I watched? Oh, I watched Dark Phoenix. If you're going to include that one.
That was the last one. Yeah, because I've put Dark Phoenix off. I'm going to wait until another time, I think, because
I would recommend wait until you've watched every other film in the world, then possibly watch it.
But I'm only asking this because I rewatched X-Men 1 and 2 this week, and I thoroughly enjoyed them both. And I just thought, where do these rank the X-Men movies, as well as the Fantastic Four film, which wasn't great, and then there was the two before it, in terms of ranking the Marvel films? And I thought, well, I don't know, I'll put this out to Jeremy first, and he can tell me what his faves were.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you're looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that whole big 20-odd movie thing, my favourites are Guardians of the Galaxy, Ragnarok, and Civil War. But possibly my favourite movie with a Marvel character in it would be the original Deadpool.
Yeah. Deadpool for me is probably my top 3, I would say. Guardians of the Galaxy still is I don't know how to top it in terms of the Marvel films. I literally had tears in my eyes when that film finished, thinking, oh my God, that was just amazing, and probably going to be no more. And then it came up, they will return, and I was thrilled. Deadpool, I think, because I've been reading Deadpool for a long time, I was so excited when this footage started dropping that they were leaking, and I was like, oh my God, if this gets made, this is going to be incredible. And it is an incredible film, isn't it?
Totally.
It really is a totally incredible movie, and I think it hits the right spot for anybody 15 and up that is into comic books, and just the tone of it is superb. What did you think of the second one, Deadpool 2?
Again, it's not that it was a bad movie, it wasn't a patch on the first one, I didn't think.
Do you think it was because there was a director change? Do you think it was a little bit long?
No, I just think there was too many characters.
Yeah, maybe.
Too much going on. I think with Deadpool, I know when they do these ensemble movies, they have to keep adding more and more characters to get people into. But I wasn't overly bothered about Cable. I didn't really like him that much. And it just wasn't good. Simple as that.
Probably because the first one was so good, it was very difficult to top that. But we know there's going to be another one, so that's all good. But I do think that the director was perfect for the first one. He's got a very dark sense of humour, as we saw from Love, Death and Robots, and I think it just, the second one just missed. It was a bit too long for me. I would have preferred it to be more concise. It was a bit too long-winded and a bit drawn out. But nevertheless, it's an awesome
See
film.
what he does with the new Terminator movie.
Yeah.
In that, isn't he?
Yeah. That's a good thing. Civil War. Did you say was on your top 3? Did you say?
Yeah. Love Civil War. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And
Just for the introduction of Spider-Man, I love that bit.
Yeah.
The fight at the airport is amazing.
It's an amazing scene. Thor Ragnarok, what's there not to like in that film?
Mm.
Really, what is there not to like in that film? It's got all the right. It's got all the right elements. It's extremely colourful. It's extremely funny. We saw a nice new view of Thor, which I really liked. The sort of, he just got rid of his ego a little bit, didn't he? And that's what was so enjoyable. Yeah, I think mine's going to be definitely Guardians of the Galaxy to start with, and I think Deadpool sometimes hits me number 2. But I really like Doctor Strange. I think that's a cracking film. I think I like mine. I think at the moment, because there's no, I don't know. It's hard because I think it's not really one. I don't think that stands out amongst all of them, unless it's your own favourite. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like any franchise, isn't it? You're going to say, "Oh, this Empire's best," or the second Lord of the Rings movie is the best one, or whatever it is. We've all got our favourite within it, but whether it's the best one of the lot, that's very debatable.
Again, I mean, a lot of these things depend on the mood you're in. If you want something funny and light-hearted, you'll put on Ragnarok or Guardians, but I love the original Captain America one, and that is a lot darker than these. So it depends what you're in the mood for.
So yeah, Jeremy, good call on the films that you've picked out there. I think that pretty much rounds up this week's show. Sorry for the sound. We've had terrible internet connection tonight. It might be just the fact that it's good weather and there's atmospherics, or who knows what, but we've had a few gremlins in the works tonight. So I think we shall round off this week's show by thanking yourself, Jeremy, for coming on this week.
My pleasure, for what you could hear of me.
It wasn't a great one, this one, in terms of, the quality of our call via Skype, which went pear-shaped big time. But the quality of content, always good. Big shout and thank you to Mr. Rob Wade for endorsing us at E14. And big shout out to all the podcasts on the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. As usual, you can check us out on our Facebook group. That's the Retro Inc. Facebook podcast group. And obviously follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and all the other places. Thank you very much for listening to this week's show. We'll see you next time on Retro Inc. See you, Jeremy.
Later.